I Bruce Cruikshank? No Bruce tonight? No? Okay. Tina's not gonna be here. Sam Yee?
Yeah, you.
Philip Loy?
Yeah.
Rachel McGrath?
Stay here. Stay here. Rachel.
I see you, Rachel. And Paula Rodarte?
Here.
Okay. Yes, you definitely have a quorum.
Wonderful. Thank you very, very much. Let's take a moment to review our agenda for tonight's meeting. Do we have any changes to the agenda? I'll just note, Erica, that Bruce is now our fearless leader and the chair of the Strategic Development Advisory Committee. So if we could make that change to him reporting, that would be wonderful.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Anybody else need to mention anything that needs to be changed on tonight's agenda? All right. That means no. So we will move on to then the minutes. Oh, actually, should it be the minutes of the August meeting? To review the minutes of the
August 23rd. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll update that too then on the agenda. So the minutes for the August 23rd meeting, we all had those in our packet. Do I have a motion to accept those minutes as written?
Make the motion to accept minutes as written.
Thank you, Bill. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you so much, Trish. Any discussion pertaining to the minutes for the August meeting? I don't hear any. So all in favor of accepting the minutes as written, please say aye or raise your hand. Aye. Ooh, I should pin all you guys. Any opposition? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Thank you so much. Okay, moving right along. Ms. Erica, do we have any public input tonight?
Yes, we have Carl Argila.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you so much, Carl. It's your turn. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you again, board. My name is Carl Argila. I am the father of Cavan Argila, an intellectually disabled deaf client of the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center. Tonight's San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center board meeting, including these comments, are being recorded under the provisions of the Bagley-Keene Act and will be posted for public review on my blog at www.sgprc.net, which I have just posted in chat, and hopefully that in fact is showing up in chat. I am requesting once again that you terminate your conservatorship of my son, Cavan Argila. I have posted an update on Cavan's status on my blog, and I've just now posted that in chat for your review. Your conservatorship of my son is inflicting grave harm on him, and it is imperative that this board take immediate action to protect my son from coming to further harm. I'd like to advise you, board, something new this month for a change. We have another conservatorship hearing coming up on October 13th, and I urge this board to direct Dr. Weller to petition the Department of Developmental Services to terminate this conservatorship. As I'm sure you know, this conservatorship is not good publicity for the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center. I speak with people in our community all of the time. And people in our community, when I tell them that your agency is my son's conservator, they're shocked. They say, well, that's not even possible. But of course it is possible, and you've been my son's conservator for more than 5 years. There's no reason to continue this conservatorship and this family nightmare into a 6th year. I want to urge Ms. Chetney to work with her board and work with Mr. Weller, because we do have some changes, as you may know. Beginning on January 1st of this year, the governor signed into law Probate Code 1850, which means that this conservatorship can be terminated without court orders, just by mutual consent. So it's a very simple matter to terminate this conservatorship. I would like to remind the board once again that I have attempted to obtain a deaf service coordinator for both of my children. On June 27th, we had a mediation agreement signed, and Dr. Weller agreed that, quote, service agency will attempt to have claimant assigned a deaf service coordinator. My son still does not have a deaf service coordinator. So, Dr. Weller, please let us know what attempts you are actually making so that we will have a deaf service coordinator. Please assure that the official minutes of this board meeting accurately state that I am requesting that the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center terminate their conservatorship of my son, Cavan Argila. And it would be so welcomed if members of this board would show up on October 13th at 10 a.m. at the Stanley Courthouse, second floor, Department 5, to show your support for the termination of my son's conservatorship. And Miss Chetney, I'm sure that you will come through for my son. Thank you again, board. I hope to talk with you in October with good news.
Thank you so much for that. Erica, do we have any other public input tonight?
No, ma'am, that was it.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Okay, we are going to be moving on to our executive finance committee. And we do have some contracts for approval tonight by Mr. Tim Travis. As a reminder, the Executive Finance Committee has already heard and voted on all of these contracts and support them being moved to the board for a full vote. It's all yours, Tim.
All right, thank you so much. Good evening, President Chutney, board members, community members, DDS, and regional center staff. As Ms. Chutney stated, I would like to present 4 service agreements this evening, each one at a time in the order that is listed in the agenda this evening. The first agreement is for specialized residential and crisis services with J. Smith, 2315 Inc. 2315 Inc. provides a wide range of services to individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities here in the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Centers area. That includes residential, specialized residential, respite care, and emergency staff registry. During the state of emergency, 2315 Inc. was instrumental in meeting the needs of individuals that we serve who had COVID or were exposed to COVID. The Ghent home actually was one of the residential homes. 2315 also quickly developed a staff registry program to assist other providers in meeting their staffing needs. Jay Smith has been serving our community for pretty much most of his life. His parents and family have been long-term service providers in Los Angeles County, and he pretty much grew up within that organization. The Ghent Home Residential Program has been providing residential support for 3 years to individuals with significant behavioral challenges, as well as individuals that are in crisis or at risk of being placed in a locked setting. The Ghent Home is licensed by the Department of Social Services Community Care Licensing Division as an adult residential facility with the capacity to serve 4 individuals, one of whom could be in crisis, and is vendored by the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center as a specialized residential home with one room designated as a crisis bed. There are currently 4 individuals residing in this home. Due to the needs of the individuals living in this home, the Ghent home provides enhanced staffing and consultant services that include licensed mental health clinicians. So unless there are any other questions, I'd like to ask the board for their consideration and approval.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for Tim regarding this particular contract?
What are the age ranges of the clients?
Well, this home serves individuals that are adults, so that would be individuals 18 and older. The individuals that are currently residing in the home are in that 28 to 30, close to 40 range.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, not hearing any. Do I have a motion to accept the contract?
Make the motion to accept the contract.
Thank you, Bill. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Wow, same time. I will take Joseph on that one. I did hear you first, so thank you so much. Any further discussion on this? Okay, all in favor of accepting the contract as written, please say aye or raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. All right, that motion carries.
All right, thank you so much. All right, the next service agreement is for transportation services with Quick Transportation Incorporated. Quick Transportation Incorporated has been providing transportation services to the individuals that we support since 2017. Their depot is located in Pomona. They have 11 vehicles, and 9 of those vehicles have the capability of transporting individuals that may use wheelchairs. They currently provide transportation to 166 individuals served by the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center. They transport both within San Gabe Pomona Regional Center service area, but they also transport individuals to programs that may be located in Rancho Cucamonga, Montclair, or Ontario. During the state of emergency, they were very proactive with offering and providing services to our individuals and families, including protective equipment and other supplies that was necessary to be delivered to different programs and individuals within our service area. So unless there are any questions, I'd like to ask the board for their approval.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions regarding this particular contract? All right, thank you so much. Do I have a motion to approve the contract for Quick Transportation?
I move Gabby vote approval.
Thank you, Sam. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you so much, Bill. Any further discussion regarding this contract? All right, all in favor, please say aye or raise your hand, or both.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. All right, motion carries. 2 down, 2 to go.
All right, thank you so much, board members. The next service agreement is for furnishing transportation services as an additional component for the San Gabriel Valley Training Center to their adult daycare program. San Gabriel Valley Training Center, or the Roland Center, was established in 1961 as a place where individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities could work, thrive, and lead self-sustaining lives. San Gabriel Valley Training Center currently provides residential, employment programs, a day program, a work activity program, and transportation services for more than 300 individuals served by the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center and Eastern Los Angeles Regional Center. The transportation service agreement, the transportation service that is the subject of the service agreement, currently supports 25 individuals that are attending the San Gabriel Valley Training Center's community-based adult day program and work activity program. Some of these individuals served do use a wheelchair. The transportation service that is provided to the individuals to the adult day program is not only for pickup and drop off, but also for the activities that the participants use during their program day. So unless there are any other questions, I'd like to ask the board for their consideration for the service agreement.
All right, Thank you so much. Do we have any questions for Tim regarding this contract? All right. Not hearing anything. Do I have a motion to accept this particular contract?
I'll make the motion to accept this contract as written.
Thank you, Trish. Appreciate it. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Karen. All right. Any further discussion regarding this contract? Okay. All right. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Thank you, Chris. Okay. All right. That motion carries.
All right, great.
And
Thank you,
last
board
but not
members.
least,
Yeah, so the last service agreement is furnishing transportation services also as an additional component and for a transportation aid for the Delhaven Community Center Activity Center and Adult Developmental Center. Delhaven Community Center is a private nonprofit agency that was founded in 1972. The Delhaven Community Center provides day services that include an adult development center serving 40 individuals and an activity center serving 50 individuals. They also work with the Hacienda La Puente School District to provide after-school programming for students from kindergarten through 8th grade. And in the past, they offered summer camps. Individuals attending Delhaven's adult day programs gain vocational and daily living skills, and both programs are licensed by the Department of Social Services Community Care Licensing Division. The transportation program that is the subject of the service agreement supports 68 individuals that attend these programs on 5 different routes. The agreement includes a fuel stipend and an aid to assist individuals that may display behavioral challenges during their ride to and from the day program. The transportation service that is provided to the individuals in the Delhaven State program is for that pickup and drop off. So unless there are any other questions, I'd like to ask the board for their consideration and approval.
I haven't clean. I know all the figure will go down.
Sorry, I missed that, Sam.
I know all the figure will go down.
Something about it closing down?
Yeah, I got all of the in California will come down
Yeah.
ago.
The developmental center.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the developmental centers, with the exception of Porterville and Canyon Springs, all the other developmental centers, as you know, when you were on the board and president of the board, Lanterman Developmental Center closed.
I'm confused because I know all of them will go down.
That's what he fears. He says that because all of them closed down.
Not Porterville. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, Porterville's still open, Sam.
oh, okay.
And also Canyon Springs, which is in the Palm Springs area.
Yeah, and they have they have also crisis homes that the state operates, that they're like regular, 5-bed homes.
Yeah, how come they are open?
Well, they meet a very specific need. Porterville serves those individuals that may be forensically involved. So these are individuals that have been charged with a crime, but are not able to stand trial. So they are able to go to the developmental center and receive training and the supports that are necessary instead of them having to go or stay in jail where they may not receive the appropriate supports. So the individuals at our Porterville are there for a very limited time. They're constantly being evaluated for their ability to either stand trial for the offense that they've gone. Sometimes individuals through that process are found that they would not be able necessarily to stand trial. And from their transition to, as Lucina was mentioning, some other types of programs in the community, or where they go to receive additional supports at Canyon Springs, which is kind of like a step down to Porterville. But the individuals at Porterville, their admission to there is very time limited. It's not like it used to be with the state developmental centers where individuals might go there, from very, very young to until they pass away. But Porterville does have a limitation. The legislature does limit the number of individuals that are able to stay there. And then they have to be ordered to go to by the court to go to Porterville.
How come Canyon is still open?
How come what is still open? Landerman? Canyon Springs?
Canyon Springs, yes.
Yeah, so what Canyon Springs does is it serves as that transitionary phase between Porterville and a community option. Some individuals go directly to the community and others go to Porterville, where they can receive the continued supports, whether that be medical or psychiatric or whatever their particular need is, as a resource is being developed in the community or an appropriate transition plan is being put in there. Because what ends up happening is, let's say there's an individual at Porterville and they no longer meet the criteria to be there, but they're not quite ready to move into a setting in the community. Canyon Springs acts as that transitionary location. And again, the stay of individuals at Canyon Springs is very time limited as well.
Okay.
And all that is, I think Sam, at one point in time, you were on some of the DS task force groups with DDS. Were you? I think so, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is information that is reported up to the state legislature on a regular basis. It's one of those aspects that is goes to the Health and Human Services Subcommittee of the state legislature, is how long are individuals being at Porterville? What are the circumstances? Are they transitioning? What are those phases? Because we really want to reduce that time that individuals are in those more secured, locked institutional settings.
Okay.
I have a question. Why is San Gabriel supporting this?
This is not for Porterville. It's not. This is actually a community-based state program that has been in our area since 1972. So this is specifically towards a program that is integrated in the community, has been providing services for many, many years to individuals within our community. They also provide a wide range of services to individuals that don't have intellectual or developmental disabilities. I think Sam was kind of looking at, kind of some of these programs have been in a long time. And, given his years of experience, was kind of like, hey, what's going on? Are we still doing these, these locked secured settings? But these are community-based programs. They have been found to be eligible and met the criteria for the HCBS final rule, which is that rule that we're required to comply with through the federal government to continue to receive funding. So they have to be integrated in the community. They have to offer opportunities and choices for individuals to choose activities, who the staff are, what their day looks like.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you so much. I don't think I even realized to the extent to which Canyon Springs and Porterville were still being utilized. So actually, it's quite helpful. Thank you. Do we have any further questions or discussion with regards to the contract for Delhaven? Okay. All right. Hold on. Do I have a motion to accept the contract?
I'll make the motion to accept the contract as written.
Thank you, Trish. Do I have
Second.
Thank you, Bill. Oh, those seconds come really fast. Any further questions? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of the contract for Delhaven, please say aye or raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much. All right. That concludes our contracts.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay. We're going to go on to our committee reports and overview. So the first up is our Community Relations Legislative Advisory Committee. Karen.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, President Chetney and everyone on the board and all of our community members and staff at SGPRC. We had a meeting last week, obviously, and we had some really great updates from the state and local perspective. We heard from Yvonne Graziani about that. We most notably about that, we got to hear more about the website updates that are planned. And so that'll kind of refresh the website. And also that survey to be filled out by community members to sort of get some input, as well as what I thought was really interesting was the ARCA bills tracker. There's a web page where you can kind of see where ARCA stands on some of these bills that they're paying attention to. Then we also heard from the community outreach team, which was really wonderful. We got to hear updates from Sal's team. And most notably, I thought was really interesting was the resources for the deaf and hard of hearing community and the support group that is going to be coming our way, I guess, at the regional center. So those were all really great things to be kept up to date on. And there's also a set of trainings from DMH. Not that I'm trying to like push that out there, not that that means it, but hey, it's something that's being offered to the community. So please take advantage of that. That is 4 trainings, I think a month long set of trainings for the entire month of October. And that was it. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Karen. Okay, let me get back. Way too many tabs open. Our advisory committee for individuals served and their families, our chairpersons, Jay and Philip.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. We also have a wonderful session meeting, and we have a very interesting, informative presentation on clinical services, and we also have few future training topics, very interesting topics coming up in October and in December, person-centered service planning and equity and cultural humanity. And we have regional service updaters. Lot of things have been covered. So parents place training, tech training for parents, and and the one more thing is social connection workshop is also coming up. And I hear more families are signed up for STP participants are more. About 129 parents have signed up so far. So that's about it.
Thank you so much. Yes, it ends up being a long night for you, doesn't it, with your meeting at 6 p.m. board meeting night. So we appreciate you. Thank you so much. Our wonderful vendor advisory committee, Chris.
Thank you. The vendor advisory committee had their monthly meeting on September 7th. Our next meeting will be on October 5th at 10 a.m. On the September 7th meeting, the vendors discussed a lot of concerns regarding referral processes for transportation vendors, for ICF, and for residential. There was some discussion regarding the transparency in the referral processes and discussing additional data being added into the referral reports that are presented to the vendor advisory committee. Which were discussed and agreed to be added in. So they're looking very forward to that. Additional concerns that the vendors have are always surrounding staffing, wages, and of course, COVID concerns increasing this fall season. And that's about it for the vendor advisory committee.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
You guys do a lot of amazing work. Bruce Kirkshake is the new chair for our strategic development committee. But I don't think he wasn't here when we took roll call, and I haven't scrolled through the participants list in a little bit, but I don't think he's here. So I will give an update. So our strategic development committee is really sort of at this point the committee that's being updated probably the most by our strategic planning process and ad hoc committee, of course, with Jesse providing a majority of the updates, which he will do in his executive director's report. So we do focus a lot on that in our meetings. One of the things that will be coming out shortly is we have narrowed down and agreed upon the questions and the training topics that will be presented to board members and committee members via survey in the next 2 weeks or so. So that we can get we can complete our plan for calendar year trainings as required by DDS. So there are 4 trainings that we have to, we always have to do every single year, but then there's room for us to pick and choose. So we have narrowed down that list that will be presented to you, and then all board and committee members will have the opportunity to rank your choices of those particular topics. So that will be coming out shortly. So we have been really focused on that. Otherwise, I am going to stick a pin in strategic planning and hold that off until Jesse's report for his executive director report. So if we move into then the board directors, the board president's report, Freudian slip. I'm not quite used to it. So there's a lot. Has anybody ever been on the phone to maybe their parents or whatever, and there's like a lot going on, but there's not a lot to really like talk about. It's kind of, I feel like, where we are. So one of the things that came over from Daniel Sabino at ARCA today is that ARCA is now supporting Senate Bill 635, which is going to improve access to hearing aids for children who are eligible. And of course, by definition, we have kiddos who are individual served who require that as well. So ARCA has looked at it and is now supporting also this Senate Bill 635. So I think that's pretty fantastic, to be quite honest with you. I think we're going to just keep going over to Jesse for his executive director's report, because I want to make sure that we have enough time for our presentation tonight by Sal Gonzales, our Director of Service Access and Equity, for the performance contract objectives and outcomes. I'm really looking forward to that. So Jesse, I'm going to hand it over to you, and then we'll head on over to Sal's presentation.
Sounds good. Thank you, Julie. Good evening, everybody. Erica, if I can share my screen. I'll try to keep my report streamlined. It is in the folder at this point, so everybody can have access to it. And I will begin. Can everybody see my report okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much. So first off here, some state and local updates. I wanted to highlight the department has been pushing out a lot of information related to health, safety, and just everyday life. Their materials are for everybody, but they're specifically trying to target it for service providers and vendors to make sure that there's additional resources that can be supportive. And I pulled up the link. You can just kind of see all the different kinds of wellness and safety bulletins that are available, from COVID-19 to dental care to excessive heat related illnesses, dehydration, recognizing abuse and neglect. And then I was even looking down at some other areas around bullying, friendships, relationships, healthy homes, diabetes. So just a lot of resources that are here. Just want to kind of point everybody here to take a look to see if any of these might be helpful for particular programs and just good awareness. So DDS has been highlighting it on their website, so I just want to help promote it as well. In addition, we have an important survey, annual survey related to early start, early intervention. This is just a reminder that if you are actively in the early start program or have been in early start as a family member with your child, the department has mailed out surveys. And so you should have received the survey already. If you have not, there's contact information for you to reach out. It's a really helpful survey. It really helps determine outcomes and different feedback related to the federal program. So just the annual survey. You'll see that on our homepage on our website. We have a flyer that Yvonne put on there that we got from the department with a little QR code. If you scan that with your phone, it'll still ask you for your survey number and that hard copy. So please, if you haven't received it, you meet the criteria. We're trying to help promote that until the end of October. Service access and equity grants, that deadline ended yesterday. It was a very busy day for anybody submitting proposals. So we just wanted to extend our appreciation for anybody who sent a submission. Our teams worked really diligently to get letters of recommendation and support letters for particular programs. So a lot of work goes into those. We wish everybody good luck in the process. And that deadline has ended. And so at this point, we just have to wait for the department to do their review and scoring, and then we'll know the outcomes hopefully soon for the upcoming fiscal year. Strategic planning, as Julie mentioned earlier, we are making progress towards our new 3-year strategic plan. We're working with 2 consultants, Michelle Ware with Forward Focus, a company, and also George Stevens, who's a consultant to this regional center. As many steps are unfolding at this time, we're holding input sessions with different community groups. And one of the milestones is to have a strategic planning session with staff, board of directors, and we're also opening up to our board committees because we want to have all the different perspectives. So that'll be happening in October 2023. If you're a board of director and a board committee member, please look out for an email from Erica Gomez on logistics and dates for coordination. It is not mandatory, but we do want to get as much participation as we possibly can. And for everybody else, I can't stress enough in regards to parents, families, individuals served, staff, any stakeholder, advocacy group, everybody will have an opportunity to participate in our strategic planning process in some format, through surveys or through focus groups. So every input will be heard. It was really important to our committee that we have that built in every step of the way. Very excited to let everybody know that we are making progress towards redesigning our website for the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center. We have entered into contract to help facilitate that redesign. There has been a survey that has been sent out. Maybe Yvonne, you can put it in the chat here as well if you're able to, or send. But we want to get everybody's feedback. The survey is asking for everybody that has an interest in our website to tell us what you like about our current website, and also what's missing, what you would like to see. So we're trying to get as much feedback as possible. The timeline, there's a lot of steps involved. So right now we're projecting about a good 12 months based off of our consultant from start to finish. That could go a little bit quicker, and it also could be a little bit delayed. It really just depends on all the different steps involved for each step. So we'll keep everybody updated, but we're kind of entering that phase of a campaign to let everybody know that we are starting this process. That way we can utilize all the feedback so we can build a website for all of you. I don't see it as the regional center website. I see it as a website for our community, so we can have the most modernized website as possible. So we are starting that process. You may have seen a monthly community calendar come out. Thank you to Yvonne and her team. I got some positive feedback already. I know Julie, you had a chance to see it as well. But really a nice way to have a monthly calendar kind of memorialize and centralize all of our upcoming trainings, meetings, and events. And it's done in a really nice, organized way. So we're really appreciative to have that format. Thank you to Sal and his team for Service Access and Equity for taking the lead on hosting a first responders panel here at the Regional Center, working closely with the LA County Fire Department, LA County Sheriff's Office, and City of Pomona Police Department. I think, Karen, I saw some positive feedback from you. You were able to participate, and a good opportunity to build those relationships, get information and resources. So I'm really pleased to see those partnerships continue and to be fostered in our community. You may have seen more emails or constant contact come out related to Elisa Herzog. Elisa Herzog has been known as our client advocate here for the Regional Center to help advocate, provide resources for individuals we serve. Thanks to, I want to give Yvonne credit. Yvonne took the lead in looking at titles and looking at kind of the work that's being done and really thought it was time to kind of modernize and look at our title here. So the recommendation was to move towards advocacy liaison to individual served. Also matches our board committees, really trying to move to be person-centered, and as much as we can to try to move away from client consumer language as much as we can. So I want to give a shout out to Yvonne for her proactiveness and all the great work happening there. We do have an upcoming training tomorrow at 5 p.m. on emergency preparedness and how to build a Go Kit. So if you're interested in that topic, we do have that available. This is just a recap. I shared it before here, but the event happened. I was invited to participate for the California Disability Services Association at the Mission Inn in Riverside on Tuesday, September 19th. So I had the pleasure of being part of a panel with Jim Knight, the Executive Director of San Diego Regional Center, and myself, providing updates on Regional Center and DDS updates related to rate implementation, service provider rates, challenges, and kind of next steps that are occurring from a DDS state perspective in that area. So lots of good representation there and advocacy. Continuing my community coffee with Jesse, had one this morning with Link, a service provider. So very active day. It was very well attended today, and a lot of different themes come up for individuals of how do I contact my service coordinator? How do I get connected to regional center services if I am not receiving services? What programs are available? What kind of resource development are you doing for individuals that may have autism spectrum disorder? Just a range of different kinds of questions. So it's a really nice way for us to get feedback and connect. So I find those events very effective. And it's also really nice to be able to meet staff out in the community and meet people where they are. So we're continuing those events. September is Suicide Prevention Month. So I just want to do a little bit of awareness and attention around resources and supports. We should be talking about this year long, but September gets highlighted. And as we're approaching the holiday season, just want to put a few resources out there for everybody. And there's a lot more, but these are just a few. You might remember I talked about the National Suicide Hotline morphing over to 988 to make it more simple to get through. So we do have the 988 hotline. There is a chat function. If you're not comfortable talking or texting, you can do through 988lifeline.org. And then also the National Alliance on Mental Illness has a texting program that you can get linked to a free trained crisis counselor. So always want to be hyper vigilant, always err on the side of caution and make sure that we're getting people connected to resources. For those that don't know, I used to work for the National Suicide Hotline for 4 years, so I have a very sensitive place for this. And always a place to have conversations, even though those conversations can be difficult and uncomfortable. So either through the Department of Mental Health or through us, let's work together to make sure that we're getting resources and information out to everybody. Trisha and Daniela, I believe, found a resource called Project Connect, very specific to individuals who have disabilities. That's a 24/7 hotline, a little bit more specific and tailored for individuals with a disability, caregivers, and family members. So we're also kind of promoting this resource as well. And we've been promoting this through our monthly meetings through this. So just a different kind of support line. So there's options. Hope I'm doing okay on time. I'm trying to go at a nice pace here. Senate Bill 138, it is trailer bill language season. We just got round 2. Most of it was signed in on July 10th. Additional was signed in September. What we're seeing is a few things. I won't go through all of them. I just highlighted a few that I want the board to be aware of. One that gives the authority to our department to develop complex needs homes on the former grounds of Fairview Developmental Center. So looking at more homes or individuals with complex needs. We're seeing some new language as it relates to legislative intent that regional center services must be person-centered and more uniform, consistent, and equitable, which is a good thing. So we're looking to see how we can support those efforts. And there was a specifier that the directives from the department cannot interfere with the individual program planning team's discretion and have to be consistent with the Lanterman Act. So, so far our directives, I believe, really fit that criteria, but it's just a specifier there that we got to make sure that we're staying true to individual program planning and staying consistent with Landerman Act as the department gets more authority to issue directives on particular areas. We're going to see some stuff coming up over the next year or two, if not longer, as it relates to equity. So we're going to be seeing more standardized assessment tools as it relates to respite, IPP processes and templates, vendorization procedures, and also for our intake processes. So this is indicators across the 21 regional centers for more standardized approaches for certain areas that are really critical to hopefully prevent differences as people, if they move between regional centers, that there's some consistency there. There's also new welfare institution code that the department has to define and examine generic services and look at ways to help improve access. And then there was some language here as it relates to intake, that if individuals are not found, they either have to be found eligible or we have to begin our assessment process and then notify families of that outcome. So right now our clinical team Hortensia has already started looking at some of those workflows that need to occur to make sure we can comply with this new section in here for trailer bill. Let's see here, AB 1147. I've talked pretty significantly about AB 1147 and multiple platforms. The latest update I have on that bill is that the sponsors announced it will not be moving forward this year. So this is the bill related to the board requirements for term limits for board training, Public Records Act, and a lot of different timelines for regional centers, just to kind of summarize. And so since it's not moving forward at this point, we expect that the bill to get picked back up again in January 2024. A lot of different outcomes could occur. It's too early to know. So the bill's not gone. It's on pause right now until 2024. Almost done here. A few directives. We just got a directive today. So we put it in this new information. I think it came in around 1 or 2 today. So Chris, this is new off the press for service providers. Quality incentive program, prevention and wellness measures. So for specific residential settings that are listed here for our family home agencies, residential care facilities for the elderly, enhanced behavioral support homes, and the ARC cushions, acronym for adult residential facility for persons with special health care needs. A lot of letters and acronyms we use here at the regional center. So just spelling those out for everybody here so you have it. Basically what's in the directive is baseline data that needs to be collected. It's voluntary, but it's incentivizing. We encourage people to do so. That if there's certain elements that were identified, preventative health, seeing your primary care physician, getting certain digital exams, physical health screenings, such as mammograms for females, women, and cholesterol screenings, it will make people eligible or providers eligible for certain incentives. So we'll be working rolling that directive out and getting it on our website to make sure that everyone has access to the most recent quality incentive program that's available. And then it also specified that in January 2024, providers will be notified as well. So they're just putting us on notice that this is coming. An exciting one, the Workforce Development and Training Stipend Program. This is an opportunity for direct support staff to increase their skills. If they take training through this portal called ARCA Learn, they can receive up to $625 before taxes for stipends. It's time limited. It must be completed by June 30th, 2024. And so we're helping promote this. There's a lot of workflows associated. So Lucina and the team are working behind the scenes along with Tim to get those workflows established so we can support providers in ensuring that they get their payments timely. As of September 21st, 1,020 individuals registered for this opportunity. 349 of those completed 2 courses already, just to give you some context. Now, a week later, we're seeing those numbers go up, I'm sure. But the department was very pleased with the turnout of already in the first week of people getting involved in this opportunity. So we have it on our website under service provider directives. FAQs are there and a fact sheet. So we'll be working through this exciting opportunity as well. And our previous committee individual served, we just talked about this as well, but just a quick update that regional centers will go through implicit bias training. This is separate from our cultural humility training that will be coordinated. This is from, I believe, 2 years ago, Welfare Institution Code. The department has finally awarded a contract. This is the big one. It means that we have one person for all 21 regional centers doing this type of training. Before it was going to be each regional center picking their own consultant and getting approval for program designs. And so we don't have to go down that path. The entity has been selected. And so we're working through some of those next steps as well for implicit bias. And staffing stats. I couldn't believe it today when I saw it. I had to read it twice. But we are up to 481 authorized positions. So we are continuing to grow. We are even closer to reaching that 500 than I anticipated. But our recruiting efforts have been significant. So a big shout out to our HR team. I have not seen so much active recruiting and so fast and bringing people on from my experience. And so they're doing a phenomenal job. And it also means that our hiring teams are being responsive to the interviews and to getting everybody in. There's so many steps involved. So we're going to continue recruiting based off of our budget. We have a staffing plan identified. We need our E1 allocation to arrive. It's very overdue. And then Daryl will give us the green light to keep releasing the positions we have identified, just to make sure we have our fiscal resources in place to support our growth. So we're waiting on our allocation to come in. As of August 31st, we were serving 16,415 individuals. So you'll have some data there as relates to our intake admissions department, also doing a fantastic job bringing people into our system. And SDP, I will end with saying that we have 129 participants, which is really phenomenal. So the team is also doing a great job bringing people into self-determination. And that concludes hope I didn't go too far over my time, but want to be mindful. Any questions for me on my report or any follow-up?
I have a little question. I don't think any of that training that was mentioned, with regard to implicit bias or anything like that that's all for staff. It's not for board or board members.
All this 4511 specific for staff and for contractors who provide intake and assessment. So this isn't related to the board, but we do see the cultural competency in that board component. So there is some overlap there. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting that there's two, because they kind of go hand in hand, cultural humility, cultural competency, and implicit bias. But it was just 2 different fiscal years of trailer bill language, which is why we're seeing both kind of come up at the same time. So Sal and his team will be leading and coordinating those efforts, and we're going to space them out so it's not training overload on staff. We have a lot of different requirements that we're trying to space out between person-centered planning, person-centered thinking, implicit bias, cultural humility, and our staff are busy. Our staff it's so important, but they got high caseloads, and then we're trying to make sure we can attend to families. And so the team is working really thoughtfully behind the scenes to make sure we coordinate and space as much as we can. And some of it, we're hoping to get some ARCA learning where we can have self-paced teaching, where we can kind of pause and do it on our end as well. So we're trying to make it all work and get everything done that's so critical. And we're excited for it. It's exciting that we get these opportunities.
No, I think it's great. But you're right. It's going to be a very delicate balance between all of the training requirements that are so important, but also there's still just all this work that has to get done.
Yeah.
Right. I was in DEI yesterday, 9 to 1. But I hadn't heard cultural humility as a term before. That's a new one for me that I want to look up. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Okay. We are gonna give the floor over, proverbial, to Sal Gonzales for our special presentation tonight on the 2022 performance contract objectives and outcomes. Sal, I'm looking forward to this one. No pressure.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, board members, community members, and SGPRC staff. Just a little information on this. This is something that we as a regional center have to provide an end of the year report after every year, which we've already provided that to the department. We got report that they received it and thanked us for that report. So now what we're going to be doing is just going over the data of the end of the year report on what happened based on us as a regional center in comparisons to our statewide average throughout the 21 regional centers. So we'll be sharing that, but a lot of work goes into not only from our receptions to case managers to leadership. Just making sure that we're trying to meet, as these numbers as best as possible, but also serving our community in the meantime. So tonight, I do have the pleasure of having Lucina Galarza and Lynn Lee, who is our employment specialist. They'll be sharing a little bit about the employment slides for us. So this information was also presented to the community because we have to make sure that that's done 30 days prior, and that was on our website prior to the 30 days. So let me share my screen.
And actually, Sal, it's going to be Lynn. She is our expert for our agency on employment. I mean, if she needs for me to chime in, I will, but she is our expert in all.
Yeah.
So Lynn, the floor is yours.
So as Julie mentioned, this is the calendar year 2022 performance contract outcome. So really, you're just going to be seeing data. Main components is for public policy measures. So we're going to be going over home-like living arrangements, employment, reduce of disparities in access and utilization. So those are things that we're constantly focusing on, making sure that we do everything in our powers to not only work on the disparity, but how are we making our information accessible and for people to utilize not only from our information that we're disseminating, but also, of course, understanding how to utilize the IPP to utilize services and supports. And of course, we'll go over some of the compliance portion of it. So the first measure is individuals supported by SGPRC who now are residents of a state developmental center. Tim touched on that, and he explained to us in regards to what is the process about from these two developmental centers. And if you look at the statewide average was at 0.06, we were at 0.03. We had 4 individuals during that time. But one of the things is that not only does our service coordinators work, tremendously with our vendors and the supports, but also with the BCBAs to making sure that we work on, providing a good transition back to a residential facility or a home-like environment if that's what's required. But during that time, we had 4 individuals, which Trisha Bernucci and her team closely monitor, making sure that we're providing every step possible in making sure that we transition them back into that natural setting within our regional center and the services or the vendors that we have within our catchment area. Public policy measure number 2 is children served by SGPRC live with their families. If you look at the statewide average is 99.61. We were at 99.37, which is really close to that. And one of the things that we're really focusing in, especially, as we're transitioning out of this COVID-19 of the telehealth services, is making sure that we're constantly giving trainings to families, making sure that we're talking about services, making sure that we're utilizing everything, not only within our services, but also within our community, our catchment area, such as generic resources, to making sure that we keep these children in that natural setting, but also providing the parents with the tools possible to be the best parents, the best guardians they could be. And we've definitely done that throughout that time, from trainings from our education specialists, trainings in regards to a lot of the specialists, such as that we're able to provide within our regional center. So we're very happy about that. Measure number 3 is adults live independently with or without paid supports. So this is, if you look at the statewide average, they were at 9.35. We were at 5.57. And this is data that we are constantly looking at, not only with our housing specialists, but as well as Trisha Benucci, Daniela Santana, who oversee client services for adults. But one of the things that we definitely are looking at is, were these numbers affected, during the pandemic of them going back to living with their parents, a family setting, also looking at what is the rent in our catchment area. But we're constantly providing a lot of information from our housing specialists as well as service coordination in regards to the type of supports out there. So, as things come to us from our cities, we're definitely putting that back into our case management, as well as posting it through trainings and workshops that, I know that Lisa Cypress has presented for our community. So those are things that we're looking at. Public measure number 4, adults live in their own home, apartment with paid support, same thing. These are things that we're looking at in regards to the statewide average. We were at 4.93. Our regional center, we were at 1.54. But, as I stated, we're looking at things that, is it a rent thing? Is it something that they're more comfortable being in that natural setting? And if they are we giving them the best tools to make sure that they stay there? But those are things that we look at. We definitely see a high percentage of our Latino community wanting to stay in that natural setting, which is around 77%, as well as with our Asian community. So these are things that, even though, yes, it's a little difference to the statewide average, but we also have to take into consideration that person-centered approach of, is this really what they want? And, we'll continue to make sure that if this is it, we're discussing this through their IPP. Measure number 5, adults live in a certified family home along with no more than one other person with developmental disabilities. Statewide average is at 0.79. We were at 0.48. So again, these are things that were, right there close to what we see in the statewide average. But, this is stuff that a lot of our service coordinators are constantly making sure that we're identifying the needs and the supports needed through that IPP. Public measure number 6, adult lives with their families. As you see, in regards to our percentage, we're at 6.95. As I stated earlier, it's just really focusing on providing our parents, guardians, with the trainings, making sure that they're aware of the type of services, to make sure that we're providing the best support to them in regards to the individuals that we're serving. Adults living in a home setting, including with their own family or with supports from other people. These are things that we're constantly making sure that, again, we're looking at is in regards to the IPP needs. But as you see, the statewide average is 83.01. We were at 77.10. Children served by SGPRC who require licensed residential care live in a small home-like setting. Statewide average is 0.03. We're at 0.13. These are, things that we're looking at in regards to the children homes. But these are things that, we do a very good job in making sure that we're providing these resources if needed for these children, and making sure that the families are understanding what are the things that are going to come with that, of visitation, supports, making sure that they're comfortable if this is the type of service that they're going to require. But as you can see in that end of the year report, we did have 10 of these children living in a residential care facility. And as you see here, we also work closely with the LA County Department of Children and Family Services. So these are things that we're constantly working with them if they are requiring to use homes within our catchment area. Now, measure number 9 is adults served by SGPRC who reside in a licensed facility that live with 5 or fewer adults. We were at 0.13. Statewide average is 0.03. And this is things that, as you see here, we're looking at and making sure that we're constantly focusing on this type of supports needed through case management. And now I'm gonna pass it on to Lynn Lee in regards to our employment measures.
Thank you, Sal. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So I am going to go over the employment measures, 9 of them. There's, as you know, for the past few years, there has been a huge focus on employment with our population, and this is due mostly to the passage of WIOA back in 2015, and then also with the upcoming, the passage of SB 639 last year, where we will be phasing out sub-minimum wage. So it is quite important that we focus on employment, and we are an employment first state as well as an employment first agency. So the department, quite a few years back, has put in place several measures as well as measures to essentially monitor incentive programs and the paid internship program in our efforts to increase employment among our individuals. So the first employment measure, the number and percentage of individuals aged 16 to 64 with earned income, will increase over the previous calendar year. With this measure, specifically, it's not something that we can track here at the regional center. So we rely on data that's being pulled from DDS through EDD. So as you can see, at the end of December 2021, we've shown, I guess, and in relation to the state, ours is 10.39% versus the 13.88. So next slide, please, Sal. The average wage for our individuals aged 16 to 64 will increase over the previous calendar year. We don't really have a way to monitor the wages. So again, this is something that we rely on DDS to provide the wage for us in gathering that information through EDD. So if you can see where we're at versus the state, we are pretty close in comparison to the state average. And primarily because we have a lot of our individuals that have moved out of sub-minimum wage into minimum wage placement. The numbers, obviously, we would like to see it increase even more. And, it will as the minimum wage has been increasing as well. Next slide, please, Sal. And then public measure number 12, the annual earnings of our individuals 16 to 64 compared to all people with disabilities. So as written by DDS, the average earnings as of December 2021 is $30,783. So again, this is one of the measures that we're not typically able to measure, to collect and measure. But I also want to preface that even though the ages here from 16 to 64, many of our individuals that are 16 to 18 are not working. They're usually in school, and we really encourage them to stay in school and focus on education instead of obtaining employment. Some do obtain employment temporarily, maybe during the summertime. However, for us, when we measure for employment, we're usually looking at ages 18 and above. Next measure, please, Sal. And employment measure number 13, number of adults who were placed in competitive integrated employment following participation in the paid internship program. So as of June of 2022, there was 24. The statewide is 1,527. And I'd like to clarify on that number. That number is total. Yes. That is with since the inception of the paid internship program. And that is total throughout all of the regional centers. So it's not an average of the year that's what the number is for all regional centers, but it is a cumulative for the past 7 years. So, and even with our number at 24, actually our number is a little bit is higher than that. It's closer to in the lower 30s. But sometimes there is a lag when it comes to reporting the data. So DDS has it down at 24. And then for public measure number 14, percentage of adults who enter in competitive integrated employment. Oh, did I just go? Oh, yes, percentage-wise. So our numbers were at 17% compared to 12% from the state. So we do have a leg up on that one. And then measure number 15, average hourly or salary wages and hours worked per week for adults who participate in the paid internship program during the prior fiscal year. So as you can see, in June of 2022, we were at $14.42 an hour, and individuals work on average almost 16 hours per week under the paid internship. That's slightly higher than the state for hours worked, however, slightly lower for the earnings per hour. And this is due partly to that in certain areas of the state, the minimum wage is higher, so that will account for the difference in terms of how the hourly wages are calculated. But we're not too far behind, so it's only been increasing since then. And public measure number 16, employment measure, average wage and hours worked for adults who are engaged in competitive integrated employment on behalf of whom incentive payments have been made. So when we talk about competitive integrated employment, we're really talking about individuals who are working out in the community in integrated settings. They are working alongside those without disabilities, and they are earning minimum wage or better. And the incentive payments, a few years back, DDS has put in the CIE incentive payment program where any vendor that assists our individuals in finding a community placement job, they are eligible for incentive payments. So for those individuals who are working out in the community on average as of June 2022, our average is $15.07 an hour, and they work 26 hours per week. Statewide, again, we're a little bit lower than the statewide, but we do need to factor in that there are different areas throughout the state that may have higher minimum wage, so that can account for the difference. Our individuals, though, that do work out in competitive integrated employment, they are working more than the average individuals from the state. Thank you. And then these are the incentive payments in which I touched on in the previous slide. So as of July 2022, the incentive payment actually has increased. So prior to 2022, when individuals are placed in a competitive integrated job placement, after the 30-day milestone, they would receive $1,000. But as of June of 2022, it's $2,000. After 6 months, it was $1,250, but now it is $2,500. And then after 1 year, it was $1,500, and now it's doubled to $3,000. So as you can see, we are not too far behind statewide in the average payouts for our incentive payments. And this is quite a significant increase, obviously, from 2021 and 2020 when we were in the pandemic. So, and 2023 is actually the numbers have even gone up higher. So I'll be looking forward to seeing those numbers next year as well. And employment measure, percentage of adults who report having competitive integrated employment as a goal in their IPP. That's very difficult to track. We don't have in place in our tracking mechanism under SANDIS that, specifies, whether there is such a goal. So you'll see an NA for that.
So thank you for that, Lynn. Really appreciate it. And one of the things that I know is occurring is just all the work that she does in regards to the paid internship program, the employment trainings that she provides not only for our staff but for our community, and as well as our staff, sharing this information with our community. I know in regards to the outreach specialists, they're very hands-on in regards to sharing this information with our equity partners, our families. So we're very excited and hoping to make sure that we get more people involved through that, those employment numbers, and making sure that we're providing that competitive employment to the individual served. So the next measure, which is measure 19, it's related to reducing disparities and improving equity in our POS expenditure. So these are things that we're focusing in regards to ethnic, racial groups, for those living at home with their families. And one of the things that we definitely did during the 2022 year is making sure that we were providing, the trainings, not only from what we do within our walls in regards to the services, but also making sure that if they're not utilizing our services and they don't require our services, making sure that we're tying them to the generic resources within our community. I mean, there's so many opportunities for our families to take advantage of the amount of resources, from Medi-Cal, from, in-home support services to, our local parks and recs, Special Olympics. And it's for us to provide that type of inclusion that we need to provide for those individuals. So yes, even though we're looking at closing the gap on the disparity, but for those that aren't utilizing our services, are they utilizing generic resources? And those are things that we have to definitely start indicating through our individual program plans. So that way we do have data if there's ever questions or concerns of, these no POS type situations or low POS type situations. Measure number 20, measures related to reducing disparities and improving the equity in their POS. Same thing is, like I stated, one of the things that we are really focusing on as well is, are we having issues due to language? And that's one of the things that we're going to be looking at. I know that regarding the health and safety of languages of vendors, or, the type of support that the families might need. These are things that we're going to be strongly looking at now. But most importantly, one of the things is that what we're looking at is the disparity occurring because they're not aware of, the information that's being given to them. So I could tell you that through our language and access cultural competency team, we're providing better support through our interpretation, our translation of documents. And these are things that we're constantly working with, not only our case managers, but as well as our community, of understanding how they could utilize this just through signing that IPP signature page of preferred language, making sure that our website is accessible to them, which there's a tool, Recite Me. You could translate our website to anything you want. But at the same time, is creating those bridges within our outreach team. Amos Bayon's here tonight, but also within our service access and equity, and making sure that no family is in any way, shape, or form having issues with connecting with us. So these are things that really help. And then the local measures, as Lynn talked about, the employment focus. These are things that we're going to be looking at, tracking the data, but making sure that, we're discussing these through our services and providing these type of tailored day services, employment training services, individual supportive employment, college support. And as Lynn mentioned, we're really, working with our families through our education specialists of understanding that if they want to stay in their educational system till the age of 22, they can, but making sure that individual transition plan is identifying the needs of that individual to better support him from that 18 to 22 and preparing them for that next step after high school. In regards to this, again, we already touched on this, the Taylor Day, the College Support Employment Facilitation Program, Supported Employment Program. And Nora Perez-Givens, who is our education specialist, is going to be having a training this week. And she talks about these type of supports and does a very good job in regards to providing this type of support, not only to our community, but as well as providing these trainings in-house to our staff. And then the individual supported employment being tracking. So these are things that we're looking at through our purchase service, the CEDAR process, but also with our employment developmental department. So these are things that we're working on in regards to Department of Rehab and making sure that we're kind of hitting on all these marks, not only in-house, but with our generic resources. These are some of the previous activities for employment. We had continued collaboration with schools, encouraging supportive employment programs, and development and the expansion of all these type of programs. So now I know that we've kind of had a long night, but I am going to propose these questions to you. I will make sure that I do see a hand raise, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I could see you all. But these are questions. How do we improve our performance with activities? And what can we do better for meetings, activities, or trainings? Bill?
Hey, so first of all, a comment and two questions. Comment being, I think this is terrific. I'm so encouraged to see benchmarking and metrics. First question would be, to me, there's two interesting comparisons. One is, how are we doing as a regional center versus the state average, which you're showing? And secondly, how are we doing year to year? So I'd be really interested to see the year over year comparison, because seeing the data, again, versus state average, great. And also, is it going in the right direction or the wrong direction versus previous year would be helpful. And then the other is, again, this is interesting information. To me, it's like, what would be the 2 or 3 takeaways that here's the really key learning here and the indicated action? And we've got 20 some odd measures. What are the things that we've really learned here that we need to act on? That would be my other question.
Thank you for that, Bill. We'll make sure that, and that's one of the things that we definitely do on our purchase of service presentation, because like you stated, we want to see the improvements. We'll make sure that we make note of that for that end of the year 2023. And we'll provide, what we'll do is we'll provide actually, probably 2 years prior to the 23. So that way you could see that improvement. But for us, I think it's just really looking at the data in regards to our catchment area. For us, you definitely are able to see what all 21 regional centers are doing, and that's part of why we have to communicate with one another. If one is successful in one area, we need to make sure, what are you doing differently for us to see if, can we incorporate these type of things? But I think for us, most importantly is really kind of, really focusing on that disparity of data. When I mean disparity is per capita. We're really looking at what we're spending per capita on the individual served. And these are things that we have to definitely look at in making sure that we're bringing that information back to our case management team, but also what are we doing as a regional center to constantly find ways to improve. And I'll be curious to see what the information is going to read next year, because I feel that once we kind of were able to get out of that, that COVID or the telehealth and not receiving services, I'm really curious to see what those numbers are going to be like. But I think, Bill, you bring up a good point of us providing a couple years back in regards to, are we improving? Are we not being successful? And how can we, measure that data?
Great. Thanks very much, Sal.
Any other questions? Paula?
In my personal opinion, as a parent of a child with autism, I would like to see, for the trainings, conference of activities that they do, if they, when they do it by disability, like autism, like epilepsy, like Down syndrome, if they can be show graphics of attendance to say, for the activities that we've been doing in 2022, and I know it's been a huge impact after the pandemic to a lot of things being online. And for a lot of people, it's better because, we can be in our home and attending a meeting. But I notice also in person, it's more proactive and it's more we're more aware and more into it. And it depends about the topic. And so to see, the graphics of the attendance and see the comments of the benefits, if I attend to this Saturday, I'm going to go to a conference where it's a person with autism who becomes, is a doctor, to hear what challenges she been having in order for her to still succeed and be where she is. Because my son, even if he's on the spectrum autism, but he's a neurodivergent, so it is something that he's always wants to belong to the population. But we as parents, we would like to see, conferences, trainings, and activities. And on your side, when you're collecting, how many people came and what was the feedback? Did they like it? That is something that is really educational for them for what they are going through on their child's challenges. And another thing that I noticed, it is important to separate and see, for kids from 0 to 5, understand the different departments that you guys have, because and an experience that I have is that when the kids are in the transition from 3 to school, a lot of parents understanding that the regional center is over, not understanding it's just the process that some services are going to be through the school and some services through the insurance, but still regional center is the last resource, but we're still here for you. So it's just about the educational section to the parents and on the different areas that we are at, and see on graphics, like you were presenting earlier, what is the increasing or if what is decreasing, what are we not doing good for parents are not being involved? Because with this technology now, it is a lot of ways for you guys to invite us and for us to make the decision to attend either in person or online, but to understand the services are there.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Paula. That's one of the things we are collecting the data on the trainings that we're doing. But I really like your suggestion of, looking at also, the diagnosis, so that way we could kind of keep track of that. But thank you for that. Karen?
Hi, Sal. Thanks for that. I found that.
You muted yourself, Karen.
Sorry about that. My question for you is, there was a slide there that mentioned something about the $2,000 and the $3,000. I guess my question is, are those bonuses for certain employers, or who is that given to? And then are there also certain employers that get a special stipend or something, or bonus because they're able to employ individuals served or certain populations or communities? Is that something that's available? I'm not sure if that's something that you see even locally, if there's businesses that are very open to employing.
So the incentive payments, those payments are for our vendors, our employment vendors. So when the vendors, because they're the ones that are really out there pounding the pavement and advocating for helping our individuals and advocating our individuals for our individuals to get competitive placement jobs out in the community. So those incentive payments are really for our vendor community that's helping our individuals get jobs. So in addition to those ones, most recently there's also the quality incentive payments, which is an additional incentive payment that goes out to the vendors for when they, again, that's separate from the work services. So the CIE incentive payments, the $2,000, $2,500, and $3,000, that is what is under the work services incentive payment. And then you have the vendors are also eligible for the quality incentive payments, the QIP, and that's a separate pot of incentive payments also going towards our vendor community. You know, there's been a lot of challenges for our vendors in finding staffing and retaining staff. And it has been, the incentive payment is really in essence to encourage them and to help them, bring on staff at their capacity and encourage them to think outside of the box in finding employment. So instead of, the typical jobs our individuals used to have, working in fast food or in a warehouse or janitorial services, we're really looking for them to be out in more individualized, customized employment that really meets their needs. So those monies we're hoping to, incentivize the vendors for doing that.
And Karen, those are per person. So they could do incentives per person where they find the competitive employment. But in terms of employers wanting to be incentivized, a lot of our work programs understand how to attract employers because there's tax credits that they can apply for if they hire people with disabilities. Sort of the thing that came up in the 80s where you can get incentivized as a entity or as an employer if you hire people with disabilities, people who are blind, deaf, that sort of thing. So there is those tax credits. There's also a paid internship program, Karen, that for employers, the regional center will pay up to 6 months at a minimum wage for them to train one of our adults in their company. And they can carve a job out and they don't have to fund they don't have to pay them. We will pay the person's salary as long as they train them. So the incentive is you get a person who they're going to get paid, the person's going to get paid. We're going to fund that through the vendor, but they get to train somebody. And then the point of that is once you train them and you didn't put money into it, can you hire them? Because now you train them how to do mail. Now you've trained them how to answer a phone. Now you've trained them how to do gardening. Now you've trained them how to, whatever it is that you're carving a job out for. You trained them. It didn't cost you anything, and you got somebody to know your business. Can you hire them now? And so the incentive is they get to train somebody and it doesn't come out of their pocket. So those are some employer incentives.
And I like that. That's great because I feel like that continuum has to happen after you leave school. There has to be something there for them to walk away with.
Right. And so your vendors know that they have for paid internship program. They ask for it, and they do what they call Taylor Day, which is an abbreviated. It's not a short version, but it's really it meets 4 areas: employment, post-secondary education, community integration. They can have some of our young adults or any adult be in that program, and really it's really a one-to-one program where they're finding volunteer work, where they're maybe even finding work and saying, hey, I found an employer, are you willing to give me some paid internship money so that I can attract it? And so our vendors, it's really important for us to train them and to have them know that there is paid internship monies, and there's also incentives if you find jobs.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions?
It's not a question, but it's my son was in a workability rehab program that they have a big grant to small business to can hire kids on the disabilities. It's something similar that it's on the regional center. Like the small business can hire the employee, the school is going to be paid the student, but also can help the business to improve the business. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's sort of similar to the paid internship program, Paula, where we'll pay the salary of the employee of the adult to work there, and then the employer gets the benefit of training them, right? Okay. And so it's sort of similar to that.
Okay.
Is it?
I think the max. What is it, Lucina Lynn? 13,000.
1,040 hours for the paid internship.
Their salary. Right?
Oh. Well,
salary,
it's based on hours, but they have to be earning at least minimum wage or better.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the workability program, that is strictly through the Department of Education, and it's a contract that's awarded to the schools. But it is similar in respects that it is a work experience training program where we can kind of consider our paid internship as the same way. The paid internship is for adults 18 and up, and workability is traditionally for individuals who are still with the school district.
Any other questions? I did put my information on the chat. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate. We would love to hear from you, but we will make sure that we implement that maybe 2-year previous to the one we're presenting, and we'll incorporate that into our national core indicator presentation that we'll be doing hopefully at the start of next year, and we'll make sure we have that for you, Bill, and for the rest of us, because I think it really does. It shows how we're doing, and to be able to have a 6-year window of what we're like, I think it's really crucial and beneficial to not only you as community members, but also to us. So we'll implement that for our national core indicator.
That's great. Thank you, Sal.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Sal. Really, really great information. And yeah, it's really nice to have all of that data to know exactly kind of where we stand. But I do love Bill's suggestion for a couple of key takeaways, because yeah, some things to focus on. As we're looking at going forward for next month, October, it is our one of our board trainings. So we'll have our abbreviated meeting, and the training topics are diversity, equity, and inclusion, piggybacking off of what Jesse presented on in his executive director's report and the whistleblower policy. So that will be the majority of our meeting next week. Do we have any other tidbits, board announcements, pieces of information? Otherwise, really, really well done. Look at us, it's 8:54. Thank you so much, everyone. Board members, regional center staff, all of our guests, thank you so much. Have a wonderful month. We'll see you next time.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Everyone.
Good night,
everyone.
Good night.
Good night.